What's up, everybody? It is Moose and Garrett here from OccupyFantasy.com, at OccupyFantasy on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, I'm your host, Moose, at the top right of your screen, at CFB_Moose on Twitter. Joining alongside one of our NBA writers, Garrett, at GStroms99 on Twitter. How are you tonight, man?
I'm doing well, man. Ready to get some basketball going. I'm excited.
Yeah, can't wait. It's right after spring training, so you have a good day at spring training, hop right on, let's make some NBA lineups. So if you're new here and you want to go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, really helps us out. Hit the thumbs up. If you want to join the channel, you can hit the join button and pay some money, get access to our Discord where we're chopping it up, not only with me and Garrett, but all the Occupy staff, all the bar members. An absolutely fantastic resource there. So Garrett, I'll kick it over to you and just kind of like a high level, kind of what's your thoughts about this slate? I know you and I were talking about this before, but what's your kind of thoughts about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a quiet slate today. It's been a quiet few days, actually. Not much going on in the injury area that we need to keep an eye on. Tonight we do have one, if then still left remaining. But overall, it's been pretty quiet, which allows us to start building a lot earlier, which is nice.
Yeah, that's always good.
Yeah, exactly. You rarely get that in NBA. But tonight really seems like a night where you can use a lot of the value plays that are open, especially on certain teams that are a little short-handed in some areas.
Yeah, definitely. So again, guys, we're going to be here till about about 6 o'clock. So if you have questions, definitely go ahead and ask. If you're new here, say hello in the chat, and we'll shout you out. So let's jump into it, Garrett. I know you said there's just one if-then section that we're looking at, and I'll scroll down here on the plug. And so it looks like Clint Capella is the only if-then that's remaining.
Yeah, there was Alfred Payton too, but he's been ruled doubtful, so that's been settled. For Clint Capella, it's really the main guy is John Collins. He'd become a really strong low-risk power forward option if you want to pay up in that area. He averages 35.5 DK points per game without Clint Capella, and let me just get some up here. I believe he averages around 10 more DK points per game with Capella off the floor. 10 more DK points per 36 minutes with Clint Capella off the floor, my bad, and 8% usage increase. So that's a pretty big boost for John Collins. And then Trae Young, he also sees a usage rate nearly 35% and 1.5 DK points per minute. So he'd become a very strong elite option at point guard too.
Okay, nice. Yeah, so Nick's also in chat. This is what's popping, y'all. What's up, Nick? Glad that you're here. So we'll have to wait on Clint Capella to figure that out. And as you wrote here again, second favorite elite point guard behind Simmons. So what we also see on screen here, and I'll scroll up just a little bit here, is y'all's core plays for each site. And I just have a quick question for you, because someone asked me, and I kind of know the answer to it, but just to kind of get it on record. Why is most of the time DraftKings core and FanDuel core different? It's not like the scoring system is that much different, but if you want to just spend a couple seconds on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, they're a little bit different in terms of the fact that, the pricing obviously can be different on both sites. So, for as an example, if you look at the FanDuel core, the first guy there is Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin's minimum price on FanDuel. He's been minimum price the entire time the Rockets have been shorthanded. On DraftKings, he's over 5K now, and he's accumulated over 30 FanDuel points per game in the times that the Rockets have been shorthanded. So he's part of our core on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he doesn't have as big of a ceiling as he does on FanDuel. So he's been knocked out. And then if you look at, for Moses Brown, I mean, there's only one center option on FanDuel, so we like to leave that a little bit more open unless the center is we really feel confident that he's going to hit. Meanwhile, on DraftKings, finding value plays on DraftKings is a little bit tougher sometimes, and you get two spots where you can put centers, so we like Moses Brown a little bit more there as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and that makes sense. Different lineup constructions, different roster constructions. So that can definitely be why. If you're playing tonight, I know I think you primarily play on DraftKings or FanDuel, but is there a particular site that you find better tonight?
Actually not really. I've started to feel a lot more confident in my FanDuel slates than I have DraftKings, but tonight I feel pretty confident with both. I feel like both have a very strong amount of value that will allow you to fit some strong elite options. I feel like there's multiple ways to build on both.
Okay. Nice, nice. So now we talked about the if then section. We talked about your core. Let's hop over to the model. Let's talk about some,
Yeah.
excuse me, some high owned guys, some low owned guys, and we'll go from there. So I'm going ahead and I'm loading up the Occupy model, which I'll actually go ahead and I'll put in chat as well. And let me go ahead and get this out here. Boom. So I went ahead and just put that in chat, the Occupy model, and perfect. So we're sorting by DraftKings ownership. Moses Brown, a nice 54%. That's the most expensive person on the slate. I mean, you can see they're only 3,500 on DraftKings. It seems like a lot of OKC players, well, just three really.
Yeah,
top thing.
They're pretty short-handed on the
Yeah, and so of these people that are 20% or higher, basically Clint Capella all the way up to Moses Brown, what's your thoughts on these? Are there any ones that are too highly owned for your liking? Is there anyone that's under owned that you still think, okay, they're highly owned, but they should be more?
I mean, if you look at all these plays, pretty much all of them are in the daily plug today, except for Clint Capella. The only reason Clint Capella is not in the plug is because he's in the if-then section. If we get word that Clint Capella is playing and he's going to see his full allotment of minutes, Clint Capella will probably sneak in as a center option as well. So I really don't think any of these guys are going to be over-owned on the slate. I think they all deserve to be high-owned. I guess the one guy I could see maybe not hitting his mark, I guess, would be probably LeBron if the game that he's in ends up becoming a blowout. We know that it's a second leg of a back-to-back, so if the game does become a blowout fast, LeBron could take a seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so just to kind of recap all these top plays, or I say highly owned plays, are in the daily plug. So that means that apparently Occupy has some influence on ownership. Yeah. Cool. And then let's flip it on the other side, and we'll go ahead and we'll use the filters here. We'll filter out, just for example, 20 minutes, and we'll sort by lower owned guys. And so. And we'll go from, let's say, like 5% to 13% there. So Donovan Mitchell's the first one that stands out with an OF index of 11.2, only projected 5% on DraftKings, definitely more projected on FanDuel. But are any of these like 5 to 10% guys stand out for you, Garrett?
If I'm looking the 5 to 10%, let me get my things in there. 5 to 10% as a value play. I'm leaning towards Reggie Bullock tonight as one of those low-owned values. But once again, John Collins is in there. If Clint Capella's out, I believe his ownership will definitely skyrocket. Mm-hmm. And then in the plug, we also have Lonzo Ball listed. I think that he's going to go a little bit overlooked tonight. High scoring game against Portland. Portland is one of the worst guard defenses in the NBA. These are two of the fastest paced teams in the league. So I think Lonzo can definitely fill up that stat sheet tonight. Mm-hmm. There's just so many other plays that he might go overlooked.
Yeah, and especially the player like Lonzo, you see he's projected for 32 plus minutes here in our model, and at only 6%, $6,800 on DraftKings and FanDuel. I mean, that's a solid play right there, solid value play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And I'm curious for the people in the chat. We talked about some high-owned guys and some pretty low-owned guys. Is there anyone in the chat here, if you want to say that you think the other way, they should be not that highly owned, or is there someone that you're super exposed on? I'm curious to hear how that would work. So definitely go ahead and let me know in the chat. Garrett, I want to go ahead and I'm going to reset the model here and get everything back. And I'm going to sort by FanDuel value. We talked about DraftKings for a little bit. Now we're switching back over to FanDuel. And some of these high value guys. And another question, we kind of always get is how do you balance high OF index players with high value players? And so if you see someone like Tony Bradley at, his OF index is not that good. He has a super high FanDuel value index. How would you be playing someone like Tony Bradley or any one of these high FanDuel value column guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, the one thing you're looking for in the Occupy model, if you're looking for ceiling guys, you want a strong OF index and you want a strong value. Tony Bradley's value shows that he has a very high ability to hit his value tonight at just 3.5 on FanDuel. But his ceiling's limited because he's projected just 22 minutes. So his OF index isn't as high as, say, a guy like Moses Brown. His OF index is around 8 because, he's expected to see a little bit more minutes. Both of them have pretty strong matchups there. So, if you're trying to decide between two people, you got to look at the combination of both because you want that ceiling as well as that safety.
Yeah, no, you pretty much hit that on the rock there. So, if you're building, like, let's say single entry lineups or even like 3 max or whatever, and I know it's like super slate dependent, so you can't take this on the next slate and figure it out. But, kind of how would you start? I guess you would just plug those guys in that you put in your FanDuel or DraftKings core and go from there, or would you kind of take a different approach?
So for single game, we create that core, mainly because we like them a lot. So if I'm playing a single lineup, I'm getting those guys in the core in my lineup. That's the first thing I do, and then I go from there. Like tonight, I'm going through like how I'm gonna build my lineups. I'm gonna pay up at guard, and you can already see that here with SGA and Ben Simmons being in my core on FanDuel. And so I'm planning on paying down at big man with Moses Brown, Pokusevski, Tony Bradley, all these low price guys at the big man spot. They're gonna allow me to pay up at the guard spot. It depends on every slate, but you just kind of got to figure out what build kind of works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like I said, it's very slate dependent. So what works on this slate definitely won't work or could not work on any other slate. Nick says, I will be under on LeBron tonight only because he is chalk and I don't like that. And I like other spend ups more. Yeah, it's tough to fade the NBA chalk sometimes because Garrett, I don't know about you, but I've definitely been burned by chalk one too many times.
Yeah, I have. I was burned by the Rashawn Holmes chalk the other night. He was around 25% owned on my DraftKings, and I felt confident about it until Marvin Bagley left in the first quarter with a fractured hand, and then I was like, all right, I'm throwing in the towel. Yeah. But LeBron chalk. We talked about LeBron. He has his downside on tonight's slate. But he's going to be a guy that collects ownership mainly for the reason that people are going to have enough money to spend up for him. And there's only, I think there's only around like 2 or 3 guys over 10K on the slate. LeBron probably has the highest ceiling of all of them.
Yeah, but also that's how you can get different in high risk contests where if there's only so many people, instead of going maybe some less scrubs, maybe you have a more mid-range, like balanced approach. And so you don't have the ability to get that 10K mark, but yet you have a whole bunch of solid mid-tier guys. Could always
Absolutely.
Be yeah. Cool. So we have about 15 minutes left. Garrett, where do you want to go from here? Do you want to talk about the plug some, or you let me know?
Yeah, we can talk about the plug for sure. I love the new format of the plug. It's easy to understand. It's easy for people to kind of look at and get a gauge of why we kind of like a player. Where they see an advantage tonight compared to others.
Yeah, and so just again to showcase people, for the second half of the season, Garrett and Boyle, who's our other NBA writer, will be using the badge format, which is what we had back in the original days when we were just on Twitter. And so we have 4 badges that a player can have: Cake, which is a favorable matchup; Money Bag, underprice; Dice means high risk; and a trending up chart means a boost from a teammate or teammates' absence. And so you look here at point guards, you have elite, mid, and value. And so I can assume you like Ben Simmons because he's underpriced and he's getting a boost from teammates' absence. So really easy to read and understand. No, I definitely like what you all have done, Garrett.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easier for everyone. People in the Discord seem to like it a lot. We used to love the whole badge system, back in MLB and everything else. I think it definitely worked a lot, and I think it's nice that we're going back to it too.
Yeah, and Michaels has a question statement says Dame, Zion, and Ball are my starting build on FanDuel. What do you think about that kind of core?
That's a strong core, especially if you're, that's counting a lot on that Portland New Orleans game. That it's supposed to be high scoring. It's expected to be close. So if both of those go your way, that's a strong core to have right there. Yeah. A lot of people are really worried about Damian Lillard tonight because CJ McCollum's back. I'm not as worried about Damian Lillard. He's still in the plug. McCollum being back. People are saying it will take away from Dame's usage. I actually believe they have a positive correlation, and also McCollum hasn't played a game in 2 months, so he's gonna have to ease back into this. He's gonna have to ease back into this a little bit. He's not gonna come back and drop 35 points in a game like he used to. He's gonna have to make his way back slowly.
Yeah, definitely. And then Armando says, how well does Ben Simmons do without Embiid on the floor?
I can get that up for you right now.
Okay.
Let me pull it up real quick.
Cool.
So Simmons leads the team with 1.3 DK points per game with Embiid off the floor. He sees the third highest fantasy point boost on the team behind Tobias Harris and Shake Milton. He sees the third highest usage rate on the team behind once again Harris. Behind Harris and Milton. So Milton obviously carries a lot of usage off the bench. Simmons and Harris will have to carry the load a lot in the starting lineup. So that's why I'm big on Simmons tonight. He's gonna get a big boost from Embiid being off the floor. And we can't really look back at that Spurs game as a comparison because I believe Simmons and Harris both played just 25 minutes because of the blowout. And that could honestly lean people off of Simmons tonight because they're scared. But in just 25 minutes, he did pretty dang well.
Yeah, that's interesting there. Let's see here. Cool. Yep. So we're all caught up on questions here. Garrett, I want you to take me through. I know you said this is the night to pay up on guards. Kind of talked about Simmons and all that stuff. Let's talk about shooting guards for a second. I'll just let you have the floor. Yeah. Excuse me for a second. You can talk about the elite, mid, value, however long you want, and kind of just spit some knowledge out for these people.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the elite option, we have SGA. Al Horford's out. Amidou Diallo was traded. Svi Malajchuk's going to play his first game for OKC. But they're still, let me see who else they're missing. They're missing Al Horford and Darius Bazley. Those are two highly offensive players. And SGA is only 8K on FanDuel, so that's why he's in our core tonight. He gets a really strong boost from those guys. I believe he averages over 40 DK points per game with Al Horford off the floor. Add in Bazley, and there's just a lot of offense for him to have. So I like SGA a lot. Victor Oladipo is another guy I like. He has a really strong matchup against Atlanta. John Wall is going to be out for a while. The team is still shorthanded. He'd be my other pay-up option. But Emmanuel Quigley, it takes our other core shooting guard spot solely because New York is running thin on guards. At the mid, we have Eric Bledsoe. He's a little bit higher risk. He's going to see a little low ownership. He hasn't been playing as many minutes. But in a high-scoring game that's expected to stay close, we could see those minutes start to go back up for him. So that's mainly why he's in the plug. Anthony Edwards has been thriving with deloading and Malik Beasley off the floor. So we definitely like him. He's been, I think, leading the team in field goal attempts during this time. So he's definitely becoming a big offensive player for them. And then we've seen Taylor Horton-Tucker see a boost in his minutes, especially last night. Once the blowout hits, Horton-Tucker sees a lot of minutes, so he's a high-risk play because you're kind of counting on a blowout to occur. But if it does occur, he could crush his value.
Yeah, good stuff there. Yeah, I mean, just knowledge all across the board. Carl has a question. Says, any idea if McCollum plays any heavy minutes tonight? I know you talked about probably they're thinking about easing him back in.
Yeah, I mean that's just a guess on my part. There has been no true news on whether or not he'll be restricted. But I'm gonna keep looking out for that. I cannot see him playing a ton of minutes tonight. You know, this the starting unit for the for the Portland Trailblazers. While McCollum's been out, that Lillard, Trent Jr., Jones Jr., Covington, Canner lineup. I saw a stat. They've actually been second in the league in offensive rating and second in the league in net rating. So they've been a successful starting lineup even without McCollum. So I don't feel like they will rush him back into playing 35 minutes. I feel like he could play 25 tonight, 20 to 28. I don't see him playing a full allotment.
Okay, cool. And some more questions here. What's your thoughts on the Boston-Utah game?
That game is mostly a fade for me. It's going to be a close game, and it's actually decently high scoring. It's just Boston has so many scoring options, and Utah does as well, honestly, even though so many people focus on Donovan Mitchell. That team has a lot of scoring options to go around. It's just not one that really interests me too much.
Okay. And then does Pokusevski continue with heavy usage?
Pokusevski, the 7-foot small forward. He's thin enough to be like he's a twig. But he's an offensive player. I mean, from what I've seen, he's been getting his opportunities. He's big enough to grab boards. Even if he doesn't go with the same usage, he's been seeing 30 plus minutes per game. And I think that right there is worth playing him for because he has the chance to double in each game. He's just that big, and Chicago isn't big enough to really defend these big guys on OKC. So I like him a lot tonight, whether his usage stays at the point where it is now or not.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, all right. So we have about 5 to 8 minutes left or so. Garrett, we kind of wrapped up. Talked about almost everything here about the slate. Is there any last thing you want to talk about or go towards or anything like that?
I mean, I guess the one thing I'd want to touch on is, if you read the daily plugs, you see, it's basically an opportunity to pay up at the guards, an opportunity to pay down at the big man spots. You got a lot of value at the power forward center positions, and then even KJ Martin at the small forward spot on FanDuel. So use the value to your advantage tonight. I mean, it's going to be chalk value, but this is good chalk in my opinion, and I would just use it to your advantage and then try and separate elsewhere, because that's a spot that is going to be really high owned, and if you miss that spot, then you're kind of screwed.
A follow-up from Armando says, has Pokusevski been starting or not? I actually don't know.
Yeah, actually, OKC's been running a very interesting lineup. Let me pull it up real quick. So their lineup last game had Ty Jerome, SGA, Justin Jackson, Pokusevski, and Moses Brown. Actually, the game before that, I believe they ran Ty Jerome, SGA, Pokusevski at the small forward, and then Roby, and then Brown. So Pokusevski's been starting, I think, at least 2 games. It might be 3 now. I don't see why that would change tonight.
Okay. Cool. So 5 minutes left. Again, people here in the chat, again, if you like what you saw here, definitely go ahead and hit that like button. That really helps us out. Go ahead and hit the subscribe and bell notification to be notified of when we go live in the future. If you really want to support us, you can go ahead and hit the join and pay the monthly membership fee, get access to our Discord. If you have any other questions about that, again, you can always hit us up. Definitely be able to help you out there. Garrett, in DraftKings, would you use Brown and Bradley as value?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe Brown is part of our DraftKings core tonight. We like him a lot there. Bradley is definitely someone you can use on DraftKings as well. They can be a double center option for you there. Bradley, I think he should have seen more minutes against San Antonio the other night, except he got injured in the third quarter. But he hit value in just 21 minutes the other night against San Antonio. We all know New York's center defense is really bad. So so he can definitely do well against them tonight. I expect him to. I think he should get at least 6 to 7 times value, possibly more depending on the minutes he sees. But I like that double center option. Leaves you a lot of room to pay up elsewhere.
Nice, cool. So, Garrett, I'll give you the floor one last time before I take us out of here. Any other last things you want to say at all about the slate or anything?
All I really have to say else is good luck, guys. We're live in the Discord to answer questions if you need. Read the plug. It's been working for us a lot, and any other questions, just let us know.
Absolutely, yeah. So again, everyone, I do want to thank everyone for joining the stream here. Really appreciate it. We're going to be doing another stream sometime later in the week. We're thinking Thursday. We're also going to try and get some March Madness content in there as well. And of course, we have UFC on Saturday. So definitely a busy week. Again, stay in touch, whether it's on Twitter, Discord, whatever, however you want to follow us even on here. Go ahead and do that so you'll get notified of all the content that we do. From Occupy Fantasy, Moose and Garrett, have a good night.
Hey, guys.